Benj, a major theme in us sitting down having lunch, and even as we're talking during this interview, big theme is relationships. And for those of us who are people of faith, we know everything starts with our personal relationship with God. With all the things God has graced you to do in business, what was a major turning point in your life that God used?
Yeah. Well, probably the absolute biggest. In 2009, we grew 300%.
Wow.
I'd have to do the math. I think I was 30, 31. And so through that air quotes success, I had unknowingly allowed I visually picture it as these sticky notes being put on my chest. And it
Mm,
says leader, creative, young, successful, entrepreneur, like all of these like labels that either I was putting on myself or the world around me was putting on me due to
okay.
these circumstances. The end of that year, I felt that I needed to change the relationship with our biggest sales channel,
Hmm.
and they didn't like the way that went down. Immediately cut us off. Immediately the business was burning cash. um, I was almost an accidental entrepreneur. I was very clear I wanted to go out on my own, but it was one of those like, oh look, I have an employee. Oh, I've got multiple employees. Like it was all kind of accidental, and as they say, success covers a multitude of sins, right? So I didn't really know what I was doing, but all of a sudden I had a business that was, a train wreck,
Wow.
and it wasn't going to make it.
Hmm.
And I what happened is because my identity had attached these labels, when those labels were no longer true or no longer felt true, it was like the rug was pulled out from under me and I had no identity. I didn't know who I was.
Mm.
I had an awesome marriage, my wife at home. I had a brand new, super healthy baby boy. And I had like just, I don't want to say no reason to live. It probably wasn't quite that bad, but it was really dark.
Wow.
Like everything that I had tried to build like felt like a sham. And so I'm sitting at a table one morning with my coach, and I'm trying to get him to like, hey, fix my business issue, right? Like we've got to get this thing, we've got to get cash, we've got to pay bills, we've got to figure out what we're doing, all these things. And I'm also kind of staring off into space, and he kind of taps the table and says, Benj, at the end of the day, every man has to be able to answer three questions. Who am I? Why do I matter? And who is my audience?
Mm.
And Jason, I just looked at him like, don't be an idiot right now. Like, I have business problems. And he said, come on, I'll work with you. Let's take it. It's easier if we take it in reverse order. Who is your audience?
Mm.
Jason, I grew up in church. My dad was a pastor. I immediately, right away, I knew the Sunday school answer,
Mm-hmm.
and there was nothing in me that wanted to give that answer because that answer was not working for me in that moment.
Mm.
But I sat there and I thought through all the options, and every option that I came up to as an answer for that question felt fragile.
Mm.
And that's when I understood like building your house on sand versus on the rock.
Yeah.
Because every single answer I could come up with, it's like, man, one rain comes and that the sand washes and the house falls. And so finally I look how I'm saying, it's got to be my Father in heaven. And he said, okay. So second question, why do you matter? And I had no answers. Like I said, awesome marriage, house, wife, all the things were fine, but my identity was gone. And I'm like, I don't know. I've got nothing. And I couldn't come up with an answer. He says, all right, well, you're a marketer. Let's put it in marketing terms. How do you know what something's worth?
Mm.
And I started to feel in my soul where he was going. I'm like, man, it's whatever the market will pay for it. And he said, what did your heavenly father pay for you?
Mm. Wow.
And Jason, that was the moment where, like, I mean, straight tears. It took me a little longer to answer that third question because I wanted it to be in my language, like a,
Mm-hmm.
a language that matters to me. Who am I? But it's
Yeah.
based on a heavenly Father that paid it all for me, right? So that was the moment where I understood that everything in my life flows out of. We talk about worldviews, right? But it all
Mm-hmm.
comes out of your identity. What's your worldview of your own identity?
Mm,
The other way that I've learned to talk about this, because it helps people kind of get the picture, but who has permission to sign your report card?
mm,
And what is the criteria in which you're being graded? And man, if you get clear on those as a man, um, you're building your house on a rock. And when you're built on a rock, then you're able to show up in different circumstances fortified, right? That's what it's all about. And if you're fortified for yourself, then you can show up for other people in the way that you need to. So that I think was the biggest, if you want to talk about a moment in life that was both crystallizing for me as a man and as me in business, that was it. That was the big moment.